Matt, what do you see with Fournette right now?
I see a big physical guy that I'm sure you saw it in the game. Just him, I want to say he trucked Tyrann Mathieu or whoever. But no, he's just big, physical, fast, and really good experience back.
Is Bakhtiari practicing today?
We'll see.
Coach, your quarterback was talking to Pat McAfee on Tuesday about his success rate when it comes to audibling and or calling a run-pass option. It was kind of tongue-in-cheek, so I wanted to ask, is that something you track? Is that, like, do you have a number on how often he gets into a successful play?
Well, we grade every play, but I would say that I couldn't tell you off the top of my head right now, especially over the last couple of years, the success rate. But I'm sure it's pretty high.
Talk about how much Shelton's returned. How did you feel about the way the rest of the line performed Sunday night after looking over the film?
Yeah, I thought for the most part, I thought they did a pretty good job. Certainly it wasn't flawless. It never is, and hopefully we can build upon it. But in particular, the run game was really strong, and we got to continue. We're going to have a great challenge this week. This is as good of a defense as you'll find in the National Football League from first level to the back level. Just a bunch of Pro Bowlers on all three levels, so it's going to be a great challenge for us.
Is there a factor, whether it's run blocking or pass blocking, that's easier for a guy to return from when they've had a long absence, like Elton, like Dave?
Well, yeah, I think there's elements to that I think if you polled the majority of linemen in the National Football League, they'd prefer the run blocking portion over the pass blocking, depending upon who they're playing against. And your scheme, of course, always plays a factor into that. But certainly I think that's one way you can help protect those guys a little bit, is making sure that you do a good job of mixing in runs and then incorporating some of those actions into the passing game. Because the action alone, you're hopeful it'll slow down the rush just a little bit.
Anything unique about Bowles' pressure package?
Yeah, you just never know where it's coming from. So he does such a great job of just giving you similar looks and playing off. They all play off each other, and that's what keeps you off balance. I feel like he does a good job. Just when you look at the entirety, especially over the last couple of years of all their pressures, it can be overwhelming. So you got to try to guess to the best of your ability of what you may see.
Matt, what have you thought of just the start that Kenny's been off to, and in what ways does that sort of help out the rest of the defensive front in creating opportunities?
Yeah, Kenny's been fantastic, just in terms of not only in the run game and the pass game as well. I think he's a complete player, and anytime you get a guy like that can do it in both phases, I think those guys are usually few and far between. Usually one guy's really strong against the run or really strong versus the pass. So he is a complete player, and certainly when he's winning, if they dare give him a one-on-one matchup, and a lot of teams will try to double team him, which will create a matchup for somebody else.
Matt, how different is your run game from the day you got here to right now? I mean, would you have run as many powers as you ran in this last game, your first year on the job, and has it really just transformed, and why?
Yeah, I think you have to evolve, and I think we ran a few more bounce schemes, which we consider man schemes, especially this past game, and quite frankly even in week one. So, but you're constantly evolving. You're always you're looking at what gives you the best advantage versus a defense. How you can use. That's why I think variety and versatility with your run game is so important, so that you're not just making up new stuff each and every week, and you have it banked reps on that, whether it's from training camp or whatever, and then you can kind of pull from your menu, so you're just not creating a brand new scheme each and every week.
Doesn't that kind of fly in the face of what you started with when it was a lot of wide zone? and that was the whole concept of.
Yeah, but I think as you see, and I think you've seen a lot of teams across the league, I mean, you can try to do the same stuff over and over again, but I think you have to evolve in this league, and there's certainly trends that go on, you know, throughout the course or throughout the league from team to team, and basically what you got to do is you got to play to your strengths and whatever that is, and how you can gain advantages in the run game. A lot of it's dependent upon the angles that you can create, whether it's by using motions or down blocks, whatever it may be, just to try to cut the defense one way or the other.
What's the challenge with White and David? And then similarly, is that what you had in mind when you guys drafted Quay to pair with Devondre?
Yeah, I think those two guys are as good as it gets. I mean, they're both very physical. They're both very fast, really instinctive. Certainly, Levante David's been playing for a really long time. Devin White, Pro Bowler, got to be around him after the season, and he's definitely an alpha. So you got two alphas right there, and you know, collectively, those two guys are probably as good as it gets in this league.
Matt, I think you were at Western Michigan in the late 90s when Brady had that kind of back and forth thing going every week with Drew Henson and Lloyd Carr. You know, couldn't decide who was going to be the starter. Did you pay much attention to that, you know, being in the state and just down the road and anything like that? I mean, do you have any thoughts even of Brady? Do you remember thinking back then, you know, that was impressive, Brady held him off through all that? And any recollections of that?
Not really.
No?
If I'm being honest. No, I mean, certainly you're aware of, I mean, they're a powerhouse in college football, and I think you have somewhat of the landscape, but it's not like I sat there and watched any of their games.
Coach, a couple days ago, you talked about the difference between a wide receiver screen or a run alert, something you said you hadn't done a lot of one, but you've done a lot of the other. Regardless, when it comes to the coaching of that concept of getting the ball out of the perimeter and getting it to your wide out and the blocking that goes into it, how granular do you get as a head coach when it comes to those teaching points? How much do you leave to, say, Steno or the position coaches, and how much are you involved?
I think we all communicate, and shoot, even our players have a lot of input into how to coach some of those routes, and certainly Aaron's a big part of it as well. He's been throwing those for a really long time. So I think collectively there's a lot of communication involved with all of us, and it's a collaboration. So I'd say we're all involved equally.
You didn't play the Bucs last year, but obviously you played them twice in 2020. How much do you go back to those films, and how much carryover do you think you can glean from, given that the personnels are largely the same?
Yeah, I think, I mean, certainly I'm sure they're looking at it too. It's a part of it, but just like we mentioned a second ago, you evolve as well. So it's just a small portion of it, but I think there's some value in looking at those tapes, and so you just try to learn from every game out there.
How much time did you spend studying those two games?
I'm not going to tell you how much time I spent. No, I would say, yeah, no, we certainly looked at the games, but there's been a lot of other games. There's a whole season's worth of games from last year, and then you look at the two games that they played this year. So there's just a lot of film out there.
Hey, Matt, how does this Tampa defense, you talk about how good they are, how does it test your patience, and how important is patience against these guys? Because while you might be doing the right things, you may not be rewarded as quickly as you like. Is it tough to be patient against these guys?
It's tough to be patient against anybody. You always want to score, and but the thing that definitely jumps out on tape, and you can tell it's backed up by the numbers, is just how destructive they are. And I mean, they've got 10 sacks after 2 games, and I want to say, what is it, 6 turnovers they've created, and so it's a very destructive defense, and if you let them be. And so I do think that there's going to be some plays out there that are going to be ugly, quite frankly. They're going to be 1, 2, 3 yard plays, and you do have to be patient and try to take what they give you, and just it's about stacking those positive plays, and because if you put yourself in bad situations, you know, second and long, third and long, it's going to be a tough day.
With that disruptive defense and knowing what their offense can do from a quick strike standpoint, do you have to be intentional about slowing the pace of this game, or are you comfortable with where you guys are at from a pace standpoint?
Have you seen our time of possession over the last couple of years? We're always intentional about everything we do. So, I mean, sometimes it doesn't always work out to the way we want it to, but certainly we're always intentional. I would say every team in the league is. It's just how do you go out there and execute?